Welcome to Midwest Climate Engineering Watch. Here is this week's news from Counterpunch. Paying politicians to criminalize protest. Article goes to say the fossil fuel industry wants to criminalize anti-fossil fuel protests altogether. The pushing new laws that turn routine acts of civil disobedience into serious felonies. They have found willing partners in the American Legislative Action Council, otherwise known as ALEC. The fossil fuel industry and ALEC have efforts that have worked on passing laws in 13 states to continue to make protesting illegal. The continued destruction of the Bill of Rights where the profits has been the death of this country. From Children's Health Defense News, how Operation Warp Speed generates big payouts for pharma executives. The Trump administration relied on an unusual maneuver that allowed executives to keep investments in drug companies that would benefit from the government's pandemic efforts. They were brought on as contractors during an end run around federal conflict of interest regulations in place of employees. This has led to huge potential payouts. Some already realized, according to Kaiser Health News analysis of SEC filings and other government documents. With those kinds of conflicts of interests, we don't know if these vaccines are being developed based on merit, said Greg Holman, a lobbyist for Public Citizen, a liberal consumer advocacy group. Disaster capitalism at its finest. Create the problem, wait for the solution, provide the solution, profit from the solution. From the Gateway Pundit, 76 of the 141 Republican representatives in Pennsylvania sent a letter to Congress asking them to reject the state's 20 electors. The Kabuki Theater continues. Which side will win? Only the controllers know. From Mercola, German lawyers initiate class action virus litigation. The German Corona Extra-Parliamentary Inquiry Committee, founded July 10th, 2020, is leading an international effort to hold accountable those responsible for using fraudulent testing to engineer the appearance of a dangerous pandemic to implement economically devastating lockdowns. Pandemic measures have caused tremendous harm, killing more people than the virus itself by restricting routine medical care to people with acute and chronic health conditions that have nothing to do with the COVID-19. While the governments of many nations have the same separation of power as the U.S., where you have a separate legislative, judiciary, executive branches, we are now finding that this separation has been breached and nearly destroyed in most places. We now have plenty of data showing the lethality of SARS-CoV-2 is on par with the common flu, and that the absolute risk of death is equivalent to the risk of dying in a car accident. The flaws of the PCR test have been capitalized upon to incite fear in order to benefit an agenda developed by private corporations, which include not only big tech companies, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Wellcome Trust, but also the World Health Organization, the United Nations, and the World Economic Forum. It shouldn't be surprised at this point that this pandemic has created opportunity for more control. The power structure solution is a greater problem than the virus ever will be. Moving on, from the Daily Mail, mysterious neurological symptoms suffered by American spies and diplomats in Cuba and China, dubbed Havana Syndrome, could be the result of a microwave energy weapon, says new report. American diplomats in China and Cuba have reported suffering from feeling of pressure in their heads, dizziness, and visual distress. The condition, dubbed Havana Syndrome, could have been caused by directed microwave energy, says a new report by the National Academies of Sciences. Experts from the Academies of Sciences studies 40 State Department staffers. No similar symptoms have been previously recorded in medical literature. Still think everything is a conspiracy theory? Please continue to keep your head in the sand. Sooner or later, the sand will forcefully push you out. Also from the Daily Mail, Trump administration blocked Biden's transition team from meeting with top Pentagon officials after President purged Defense Department and installed loyalists in senior positions. President-elect Joe Biden's transition team tried to meet the Pentagon's leaders, but efforts stymied by Trump loyalists installed at the Pentagon. Biden transition tries to meet with senior leaders of the Pentagon spy agencies. Transition officials were told they had to submit a list of people they would meet. The list would then be vetted by the approval of a Trump loyalist, Kesh Patel. The Pentagon denies report, says meeting tentatively scheduled for next week. Moving on. Riots in Paris. As furious mass mobs set cars on fire and throw Molotov cocktails at police, as thousands march against law making it illegal to film police. Violent clashes broke out in Paris again today after weeks of unrest following a new global security bill. This law would make it illegal to film police, a policy President Macron's administration has pledged to rewrite. Concerns from activists and journalists that new measures will harm press freedoms and enable police brutality. Fires were lit in the street and cars were set ablaze, and the roads of the French capital were filled with smoke. Demonstrators were seen battling with riot police, with reports of missiles being thrown at officers. Power structure doing whatever they can do to preserve their own power. On to the Huffington Post. Can your employer require you to get a COVID-19 vaccine? Power structure legal expert says yes. Will you allow yourself to be jabbed by a rushed vaccine? Up to you. And finally, from News Punch, Americans receive vaccination card proving they've taken the coronavirus jab. Welcome to Orwell's 1984, where the truth is a lie and a lie is the truth.